My time of year has finally come. Hi all, welcome to day one of Vlogmas. I couldn't be more excited. I am such a Christmas and holiday nut, so this is absolutely my time of year and I cannot wait to dive in with all of you. For my first video, I want to talk a little bit about dealing with the holidays whenever you have depression or different mental illness problems. The reason I want to talk about this so early on is because I always got advice for handling being down during the holidays that really didn't work for me, didn't really fit with how I was feeling or what was triggering me. And when it finally clicked for me last year exactly what was setting me off, I finally found some ways to handle it. But a lot of these things kind of take starting early this season to really grip hold of. So I wanted to share this with you right away in case it might work for you too. Also, I decided to treat myself this year and I got the I'd Rather Stay at Hogwarts this Christmas advent calendar. So I'm going to be opening day one of this at the end of this video. So stay tuned to that if you're a nerd like me and want to see what's inside. So I have had depression since I was about 8 years old. It's been something I've been battling pretty much forever. And also my entire life, I've been a huge holiday person, a huge Christmas person. It's always been my absolute favorite time of the year. Like, I am obnoxious about it. I mean, I just dyed my hair partially green for the holiday. Like, I wear Christmas stuff all year long. Like, that's all I do all year is just plan for Christmas. That is it. It's like my whole world. So it would really get to me whenever I'd realize that I would get really depressed over the holidays too. And a lot of times it would mean I couldn't do the things I want to do over the holidays because I'd be so out of it and so lethargic. And just when it's hard to get out of bed, obviously it's hard to get up and celebrate and go do things and go to parties and have fun. And for a long time, the only advice I ever got about this was that I was obviously putting too much pressure on the holidays or trying too hard to make it a perfect holiday, or that I would just get stressed out because the holidays didn't live up to my really high expectations. Like, I am a perfectionist. I could see where people would think that. Or people get upset if they're like, oh, their family's not perfect or their lifestyle is not perfect, so it doesn't match what they see in the movies for the holidays. And I would think maybe it was some of those things, and I would try to like be less perfectionist. I try to be a little easier with it, but no matter what, it just kept happening over and over again. It took me until last year, and really at the time, it was last year or the year before, but at the time I was working things through with a therapist who was not the best, like just not the best for me. And she kept insisting that the reason I was having these problems over the holidays was because I was such a perfectionist and putting so much pressure on it, and that I wanted the holidays to be so great. So obviously they're going to turn out not as good as I was expecting. And that was making me sad. And while it was frustrating having her just kind of beat me over the head with this over and over and over again, because it just didn't feel right. And anytime I applied her techniques, it wasn't doing anything to help. I guess overall it was useful because it did make me really examine why it was bothering me so much and what was setting me off. And what I finally came to the realization of is that I am super prone to not wanting to admit how bad my depression is, not wanting to admit how out of it I am or how much I'm struggling or how difficult things are. And that's kind of easy to do during random parts of the year. Like if it's, the middle of May and I've been really depressed for the past 3 weeks and really zoned out and really checked out and not doing very much and really just coasting by and getting the bare minimum done, and time just kind of speeds by for me whenever things go like that. Like, I would just blink and a month will be over, and it didn't really matter to me so much if it was something like May. I would just be like, oh, that's scary. If I would recognize it for a second and be like, that's really scary that happened, I'm freaked out that I'm not doing well, and I go straight into the kind of ignoring it and just be like, oh well, focus on right now. And I wouldn't really harp on the fact that I kind of missed a month because I didn't really care. Like, I'm like, whatever, it's just spring, who cares? But the holidays mean a lot to me. So however down I get during the holidays, I really notice that, because if I zone out, and even if I miss like, 2 or 3 days, especially if I miss a week and I'm really checked out and everything's kind of speeding past me and I'm not doing anything, I'm hyper aware of that because I'll have lost, a third of the holidays, and I'll all of a sudden be closer to the holidays and won't have baked cookies or wrapped any Christmas presents or decorated the house or watched any movies, and I'll notice that, like I'll feel that. So what was really happening is not that I was getting more depressed over the holidays, it's just that the holidays were making me realize how depressed I already was. It was really highlighting what my mental state was. So that's where I'm coming from with these tips. And if that doesn't resonate with you, these tips may not work for you as well. I don't want to say that this is a one-size-fits-all thing. Even if you do have similar problems to me, that doesn't mean this is going to work. A lot of this is still kind of trial and error for me. I'm trying out these things, seeing what works. So far, it's been doing a little bit better. So I will definitely update you as Vlogmas goes along and let you know how I'm doing and how these tips are working. Maybe offer some new ones if something happens. But If this does feel like something that might be true for you, that maybe the holidays just really highlight how you're already feeling, then I have 5 tips that I'm going to be trying these holidays, and I hope they work for you too. My tip number 1 is to start early. This has been a very big thing for me because when I get depressed, it takes me so long to actually start doing something. That's way harder to me than actually doing the thing. It's just beginning. It's getting that initial motivation to start, no matter if it's something I really want to do, and that's whether or not I'm getting out of bed or if I'm getting up to go make lunch or starting my work for the day, whatever it is. Like, the beginning's the hardest part, and the holidays are no different. So what I did this year is I tried to start as early as possible. And what worked for that is, even if it ended up taking me 3 times as long to do it as I wanted, I'm still getting done relatively early. Like, my goal this year was to be finished with all my Christmas shopping. Preferably, like, I wanted to have my Christmas shopping planned out by November 1st, and I wanted to buy everything by Thanksgiving at the very, very latest. And obviously, I didn't really do that. Like, I was getting depressed, I was getting stressed, I was getting overwhelmed. I would kind of work on my shopping list here and there and have a few minutes, so I'd get a little bit done, but it wouldn't be finished. And so it took me way longer than I wanted. I missed my deadline. Today, I'm actually filming on December 2nd because I was too depressed yesterday. And I literally have all my Christmas shopping in my Amazon cart. I've already done most of it. The only things I've left to go get are like little candies and a few things for a couple friends' stockings that I always do in person. I already know I'm getting that this Saturday. So as soon as I finish this video, actually, I'm gonna go actually purchase all my gifts. So that'll be done. So that means I'm done right at the beginning of December, which, yes, it's later than I wanted to be done this year, but it's literally like 3 weeks earlier than I finished last year. So that's already better. And it means I have the rest of the month to kind of chill, relax, not worry about spending a lot of money again. And I have some gifts I want to make people, so now I can really take my time making these presents instead of stressing out like, oh no, I forgot this person, what am I going to get them? So that is my suggestion, is the things you want to do this holiday and things you want to start working on, especially things that take a lot of effort, like mailing out Christmas cards, buying Christmas gifts, decorating your house. Try to plan to start it way earlier than you actually need to. And that way, if you get to it later than you planned, you're still doing it earlier than you would have otherwise. Tip number 2, and this is pretty much my go-to tip for everything in life, is to make a lot of lists. When I get depressed, I get extremely foggy. I can't remember things well. I just lose track of everything. I get very sluggish in my mind. And making lists makes things so much easier. What I've done this year is I made a big list of all the things I want to get people, like my giant Christmas shopping list. I got that all done. But I've also made a list of things I want to do over Christmas. Things like going caroling, or even little things like driving around the neighborhood and looking at Christmas lights, or mailing out my Christmas cards, or trying new Christmas recipes, or having hot cocoa, just even tiny little things. I made a list of everything I could think of I really want to do this holiday season. I wrote that all down. I also made a list of all the movies I want to watch this year, all the Christmas specials, all the Christmas songs I'd like to learn on my ukulele, all the songs I'd like to listen to. I did all of that so I don't have to kind of like worry that I'm going to miss something that I love. Anytime I remember like, oh, this is something I'd like to do, I just write it down on my list, and that way I have a bunch of things ready to go, and I am not stressing myself out, because I will stress out about that. I hate it if it's like December 23rd and I realize that I didn't do something I really wanted to do, or I didn't get to watch a movie that I really, really love. It just makes me really sad because it's something I love, and then I start spiraling because I'm like, oh, it's because you're so depressed, and I think about how depressed I am, and then I start thinking of anything else I haven't accomplished in my life because of the depression. It's not fun. It's not festive at all. And this ties into my 3rd tip, is to try to set reminders or deadlines for the things you want to do. This is big for me, like especially if you use Apple. I'm sure other operating systems and phones have similar things to this, but I use Apple for most of my stuff. So I love setting up reminders. I also do it on my, I'm afraid to say her name, on my Alexa. I do stuff on her. But I get really foggy. I lose track of time whenever I'm depressed. So I've gotten very into setting reminders for all kinds of things, whether or not it's like, you know, reminders to clean out the fridge, or that there's a football game on I want to watch, anything like that. Like any kind of thing that might slip my mind, I just set a reminder as soon as I think of it, and that really helps. And what I want to do this year is set reminders for all those things. Like, that's the other thing I'm going to do either tonight or tomorrow morning, is sit down with my list of things I want to do for Christmas, or all my kind of errands I have to do for it, and plot out when I want to get them done by. Like pick a day I want to write my Christmas cards, pick a day I want to address my Christmas cards, another day I want to mail them, like pick days I want to watch certain movies with friends, or days I want to try baking new recipes, or the days I want to wrap all my presents on. And I'm going to set a reminder for it all so it's all scheduled, and that way I don't have to worry about planning and thinking so much. I can be doing something and then the reminder will go off and be like, oh, wrap your presents today, and that'll be my focus for that day whenever I'm done with my work. So this way I don't have to be like personally in charge of keeping all that info in my head. Like I can let my tech kind of work for me and remind me. And if you don't use reminders, then you can do it by like writing it on a calendar, setting a to-do list that you keep out where you can see it, using your bullet journal. There's all kinds of ways to do it. Just kind of schedule it and plan it. I think it's just important to remember to not get like too beholden to that and don't stress yourself out over it, but just kind of use it as a guideline for, hey, this is how I'm going to pace things out, and that way you're not overwhelming yourself. You can kind of schedule it in a way where you don't feel daunted by everything, and you kind of just spread everything out in a way where you can really enjoy the things you're doing. And kind of an add-on to this that also works well, it's worked so well for me already this year, is also using people and friends as reminders. And it can make the things you're doing even more fun, because instead of, oh, I'm going to fill out my Christmas cards, you can ask a friend to come over on a certain day and do Christmas cards with you. Or even if it's not someone in person, like I've done this a lot with people online where it's like I'll set up a time and we'll do it online together and just kind of text each other while we do it, stuff like that, or set up a time to do like a phone call with a friend while you're doing that. And especially if you have a couple of friends who are really motivated, are really good at remembering things, it can be nice to set up to do things with them, because if you're lacking motivation or you really don't want to do something or you're going to forget about it, this other friend might be enough to kind of push you and remember and get it jump started. Like if they show up at your house with wrapping paper and ribbons and, you know, a Christmas movie ready to go, it's going to be a lot easier to wrap presents than if you're just lying in bed by yourself and trying to pull yourself out. And I understand not everybody has people around them that want to do these things with them or that are available. Not everyone has this. And if you don't, I really do understand. I've definitely been there. I'm lucky to not be there as much this year, which is great, but that's something I worked really hard to get at. And it's not always something you're in control of. Like you can't control who's in your life all the time. You can kind of get bad people out, but you can't necessarily make people materialize and appear in your life that you need. If you do have people in your life, I think it's great. And if you don't, it can also be worthwhile to reach out a little bit. Like it can be good to try to meet friends online in different places. Like I'm parts of lots of like Facebook groups or online forums and Discord groups about things I'm passionate about, and you can find people there that might really click with you. I've done stuff with the Nerdfighter community before. We all did like Christmas card stuff together, and little things like that really helps a lot. So you can find friends in unexpected places too, and I understand how hard that is, especially if you're depressed. It's hard to get motivated for that, but if you do feel up for it, that can also be a fun way to try. My fourth tip is to make things a little bit easier on yourself, especially if you know like you know yourself well. You likely know which things are probably hard for you to get the most motivated for, or which things feel more like a chore than fun over the holiday season, what really stresses you out, what makes things difficult, or is the kind of thing that makes you not look forward to the holidays as much, because fighting depression really does take a lot of energy. So if there are certain tasks related to the holidays that just drain you, try to find a way to make those less exhausting or to skip them altogether. For instance, this Thanksgiving, like our oven is awful. It's not consistent. It makes baking so crazy. And so every single time I have to bake a pie or bake cookies or cakes, it's just a coin toss if it's going to work whatsoever. And on a holiday, that's really stressful to me because I love pumpkin pie and I love apple pie. So when I don't have them around, it just bums me out. And a lot of times it can kind of fall apart when things go wrong because, again, depression makes you kind of overstate everything that's happening. So when something doesn't work right, I go straight to like, oh, well, if I wasn't so depressed, I'd be in a better house. I could afford a better stove, and I start spiraling. So I just bought myself pies at the Stop and Shop instead. Like I just went to my grocery store and bought a couple of pies, and I love baking pies, but I can bake pies when it's not a holiday and there's no pressure. And if it doesn't work, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm not going to be that sad about it. And this time I was going to be sad about it. I didn't want to like leave the house on Thanksgiving to go get a pie if it didn't work. So I did that in advance, and it was so much easier. I set it up so that everything in the oven had to cook at the same temperature, so I could just throw everything in at once instead of cooking in a bunch of different shifts. This way I actually ended up being able to take like multiple long breaks while cooking Thanksgiving dinner, which was fantastic. I don't think I've ever experienced that in my life, and it made it so much calmer. just little things like that. Like if sending Christmas cards really stresses you out, don't send Christmas cards. Like do e-cards or something, or send emails, or just group text everybody. Like that's fine. If wrapping presents is the worst thing in the world, you know, do gift bags, or go to stores where they can wrap the gifts for you if you can do that. Or exchange with a friend. Like if you love baking but you hate wrapping, you can switch with a friend where they love wrapping and hate baking, and they can wrap your gifts and you can bake their cookies. Like you can find ways to try to make it a little bit easier on yourself. Like don't feel pressure to do every single thing and to, you know, be normal during the holidays. Like you don't have to make yourself do every little thing. It is hard having depression. It's hard trying to work through this. So if something's too much for you, that's okay. I think it's really important to kind of recognize what your limits are, and that way the things that you are able to do and you have the energy for, you can really devote yourself to, have fun with, and not drain yourself so that you don't enjoy the holiday at all. My fifth tip, and this is something I've gotten really into, is to remember that you can celebrate any time of the year. And this is something people always talk about. They're like, oh, keep the spirit of Christmas going all the time. And I like to take that just a little more literally. No matter how many tips you follow, sometimes it's just going to be a bad depression phase during the holidays, or things are just going to get to you, or you're not going to be able to do everything you want for whatever reason. You're not, like, you may just not be in the right headspace to really enjoy the holiday. But if that happens, it's okay to celebrate at a later point. Like a few things I've started doing, I pretty much full on celebrate until the Epiphany, which is January 6th. That way I have just like a little week or so afterwards. Plus I'm very prone to getting sad whenever Christmas hits, because I'm like, it's over now, it's all done, it's another year, and it really bums me out. So knowing I have just like a little extended week feels like I'm celebrating a little bit longer. Another thing I do is in July, I like to celebrate Christmas in July, and this is super great for doing like a non-stressful holiday, because what I do is like there's no presents involved, you don't spend money or anything like that other than normal grocery shopping. All I do is like I crank up the AC so it's nice and cold, put on Christmas sweaters, watch Christmas movies, listen to Christmas music. I might put up a couple little decorations, and then I make like a Christmas dinner type thing. I'll do some kind of like vegetarian ham or tofu roast, and have mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce and pumpkin pie, and it's really, really fun. And I'll even have friends over. We'll have like a little Christmas party, and it's a great way to just kind of like get a little bit of that spirit in when you need it, and when there's no pressure about money or consumerism or any of that going on. Like it can just be like the parts of the holiday that you really love and really find special. And you can do that whenever. Like if I'm feeling really down, I'll put on Glee Christmas music, or I'll put Elf on the TV, or I'll sleep in a Christmas t-shirt or something like that. Like you can do this stuff whenever. If it brings you joy and you really love Christmas, you know, life is hard, depression's hard. There's no reason why you have to limit it to just this little short time period of the year. Like you can do it whenever. And knowing that has really helped me like not get as sad whenever I can't feel Christmas as much while it's happening, because when I can feel it later on in the year, I'll just celebrate it anyway, which is a really great thing. And you can't do everything, obviously. There's not going to be like light displays, but you can find light displays on YouTube to watch. You can find little ways to get little hits of what it is that you really love throughout the year. So just remember that it's kind of always there for you whenever you can handle it, if you can't handle it right now. So those are my 5 tips. I really hope they help. I hope they help me too this year. So far they've been working well. I've already gotten a lot more done and feel less stressed and a little more excited. I'm really excited to schedule everything and set my reminders. And now that we're done going over that, it's time to open up the Harry Potter advent calendar. Fortunately, I think they're a little rough with it in shipping because some of the doors are kind of open already, so I'm just trying very hard to keep them shut. Let's see. We need day 1, which is, where are you? Which is right here. So excited. This is a lot more complicated to get out than I thought it was going to be. I think this might require magic to work. There are 2 stickers that I feel like it may have fallen out from another day. Like I said, it's kind of gotten beaten up in the shipping, but they're really pretty. It's Gryffindor and Ravenclaw house crest, which you can see here. They're nice and silver, super pretty. I need the Slytherin one. I'm sure it's in there somewhere. And it looks like for day 1, what I'm actually getting, it's Hogwarts playing cards. I'm so excited. Actually, playing cards are one of my big panic coping mechanisms I'll use if I get really stressed out from a sensory thing or a panic attack. I will just play solitaire or play war with a friend. And these are amazing. They're so pretty. Like, look, they're like, oh, they have the house crest. Oh, these are so cool. And they're like aged parchment, and they're actually pretty heavy and thick, which is nice. Like, oh, there's Gryffindor. Oh, these are gorgeous. It's gorgeous artwork. Oh, look at the little Hufflepuff badgers. Oh, it makes me so happy. I need to find something Slytherin, or else I'm going to be very distraught. There we go. Oh, I love these. These are so cool. So that's amazing. Like, if this was all I got out of the advent calendar, I'd be incredibly happy. So I'm already psyched about this. Okay, so these are too cool, and I had to show it a little bit closer. So each suit is a different Hogwarts house. And so you have the crest, and then you have the animal symbols for the numbers, and then the ace is a bigger animal, and I love these. These are amazing, and the jokers are just Hogwarts crest, and they're gorgeous. Like I said, they're nice. They feel nice and heavy, and they look like aged parchment, and I'm just in love with these. I'm so excited. So that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video and opening day 2 of my Harry Potter advent calendar. So I can't wait to see you guys. Till then, Merry Christmas!